So our first speaker is Jamie Zimmerman, and Jamie currently is a consultant, but he grew up on a dairy farm in Finger Lakes region of New York, US, received his undergraduate degree from Cornell University and returned to the family farm following graduation. After farming for 7 years, he went to work for Dairylee Cooperative, a regional milk marketing organisation, and held a variety of positions at Dairylee, mostly in the farm services area. Jamie received his MBA from Syracuse University in the late 90s. He was part of the team that created Dairy One in the late 90s from a partnership between Northeast DHIA, which is an equivalent to an NHD HICO organisation, and Dairylee. Jamie served as the CEO of Dairy One from its formation until December 31, 2022. So I'm welcoming Jamie to our screens. We measure it so you can manage it. I think it's a tremendous topic to start the day. Welcome, and Jamie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see that there's some universal things throughout the globe, that most dairy meetings start with a cowbell. And for those of you that might be from the US or have said that you can never have enough cowbell. And I saw the title of the introduction this morning as a morning recovery. So I assume that last evening was a lot of fun for everyone. And those are also universal things throughout the global dairy industry as far as having some fun when people get together. I wanted to bring to you greetings from rural upstate New York, where you can tell by the pictures I took from my home yesterday that spring is on its way. Not sure when it's going to get here, when planting season is just about here. This is a bit unusual for mid-March in our part of the world, but not totally out of the ordinary. But it looks like the weather that you're having is much more pleasant than where I am today. I'm humbled to have the opportunity to speak with you today and be among such a highly regarded industry colleagues that you've had throughout the course of your meeting. You heard about what my background is. I'm a farm kid, lived in the dairy industry all my life, have had a good fortune of getting a good education and having great mentors around me for my entire career. I recently retired as the CEO of Dairy One, and now I'm working on a number of projects with Dairy Farmers of America, and we'll talk a little bit about those. I have found that whenever you go across town or across the state or to other countries, there's always something to be learned from others, and I hope that I can learn a little bit from you all today also. And that people in the dairy industry around the globe are much the same. I've had the good fortune a few years ago to travel to New Zealand with a group of farmers from the US to tour some farms in New Zealand. And when we were talking with a farmer on the South Island and going through some of his bulls that he was mating, it turned out that one of the bulls that he was using on his farm was from one of the farmers' farms from the U.S. that was on the tour with us, the farmer from New Mexico. So there's always a very small world within the dairy community across the globe. But although that we're half a globe away and 15 hours difference in time, we are tied together in the global industry as global markets for our products, for genetics, for technology, and more. And looking at the agenda from yesterday and today, that we're all dealing with the same issues of sustainability, labor, genetics, dairy beef, and technology. Our global ag and dairy industry is changing rapidly with much consolidation of farming operations, advancements in technology, genetics, and agronomy, and the like. Today, I'd like to share with you a story about Dairy One and how it's adapted to change since its beginning, and more recently, its journey to support dairy producers. Dairy One's mission is to create and deliver information that farmers use to make decisions. That's it. Information, data to help farmers to make decisions. And we do that and have done that in a variety of ways. And that's been founded on a set of values of optimism, commitment, innovation, professionalism, and integrity. And when I was the leader of Dairy One, I asked our employees to commitment to these values every day as we carried out our mission. For those of you that might know who Simon Sinek is or read any of his books or specifically Begin with Why, a few years ago, Dairy One went down the path of really focusing on why are we doing what we're doing and what is our cause. We boiled that down to two really fundamental and succinct statements. Number one, we believe in farming. Number two, we make a difference. We believe in farming because that's our mission, to create value for the farmers that own us. And certainly we need to believe in what they're doing. Secondly, in order to get invited back and to continue to work with the farmers on an everyday basis, and we have to make a difference in their lives and bring improvements to their farm operations. The history of Dairy One is similar to many herd recording organizations or AI organizations around the globe. It started with very basic animal improvements in the late 1800s with very local roots, and then farmers banding together in ever increasing scale and sophistication to provide services to meet their needs and the needs of the industry. Dairy One started as New York Dairy Herd Improvement Cooperative in 1949 and has progressively grown in scope and territory since then, and working with others by making acquisitions and innovating. Dairy One was formed, as you heard earlier, in 1997 when Northeast Dairy Herd Improvement Association, or DHIA, and Dairy League Cooperative came together with a common interest in helping farmers to be successful. Northeast DHI was looking for a partner to move into the future. Dairy League was looking for to offer additional farm management services. And there were many farmer leaders in common, as I think is common across the globe, that were part of both organizations who had decided that it would be best to work together rather than working apart. So they put their oars in the water together and started to row together. In the following decades, there were additional mergers and acquisitions along with new product development, all driven by Dairy One's mission to create and deliver information for farmers. Dairy One today is still a farmer-owned cooperative. It counts as members as about 3,000 farmers, dairy farmers here in the Northeast US with about 600,000 cows. It's governed by a farmer board of directors and has an affiliation with Dairy Farmers of America. And that affiliation provides three things. There's a management agreement between Dairy Farmers of America and Dairy One for the management of the organization. DFA is a member organization of Dairy One and has a number of board seats and does significant amount of business between Dairy One and DFA, primarily in the producer payment area of milk testing. The affiliation with DFA is not uncommon for modest-sized organizations such as Dairy One, and it provides a significant resources and market reach that otherwise would not be possible to an organization the size of Dairy One. Dairy One has about 250 employees. You can see that the majority of those are involved in herd recording or DHI services, 70 in laboratories, about 40 in other roles. And the things it does from herd recording to other activities are either regional in the Northeast US, across the US, or international in scope. And I'll go through some of those things. A little bit about Dairy Farmers of America, we are affiliated with. It's a farmer-owned cooperative in the U.S. It's very large. It has about 6,300 members that are located coast to coast. Has a very diverse population of farmer owners, and its main purpose is to market the milk of those farmer owners across the country. It does represent about 25% of the total U.S. milk production, and it has a very diverse population of farmer members. If you see in the lower right-hand corner here, the DFA breaks its membership into quartiles of production. So you can see that about 11% of the production, or 11% of the farmers in DFA account for about 75% of the milk production, and the other quarter of the farms, 5,500 farms there, produce the remaining 25% of that. So just a little bit of perspective, those 725 farms in those quartiles 1 through 3 represent about 20% of the US milk population, milk production, um, or about 42.8 billion pounds of milk. And that's 42.8 billion pounds of milk is about 1.3 times the size of the Australian dairy industry, coming from 725 farms. So many of those farms are multi-site and under common ownership, and consolidation is continuing to gain momentum here in the U.S. and especially also within DFA. Just to give you a little perspective where DFA stands within the farmer cooperative sector of U.S. dairy, it's the largest and outstrips the others more. But their goal isn't to be the largest; it's to provide the best value back to its farmer members, and to be able to do that in a very good way. And just the last slide on Dairy Farmers of America. It has grown in the last 25 years. Started as a merger amongst 4 regional cooperatives in the Midwest of the U.S. And over that 25-year period has grown from a modest beginnings to a global leader in dairy and providing value back to its farmer owners and retaining those roots. So, as you all know, and I think we can all agree, that dairy farming systems are growing in complexity, and producers are seeking more than data alone. They're seeking insights. Which genetics will make them the most progress in their herd? What investments are best for me? Which crops are best grown on my soil resources? Which automation will work best in my situation? What systems do I need to have in place to sustain my business for the next generation? There are also many competing and potentially conflicting technologies that many farmers may not be equipped to discern, and they're asking for help. So, and I think, and I don't think this is original to me, and I'm sure you've had discussions amongst yourselves about this, but information and particularly insights, I think, are the new currency of progress. Those that gain insights quickly and make decisions quickly and to the best advantage will progress faster. Over the past few decades, Dairy One has intentionally moved into a variety of areas in this production cycle of dairy. We were like many traditional dairy organizations focusing on the cow forward to the farm gate. And then a few years ago, started to focus back on what are the things that are inputs for the cows and where is the feed coming from. So we started to move into the entire chain of dairy production, starting with sunlight and water. We're working on the soil because all food, at least 95% of that around the globe, begins with sunlight and water acting through the soil. Probably folks in grazing operations or grazing systems may be ahead of much of North America with their appreciation for pasture and the pasture curve. And we may be slow to adopt this. But in many of U.S. dairies, anyway, there's not necessarily a seamless focus on the soil through the cow continuum, and we've made a conscious effort to build into that to provide information and insights through the entire chain of turning sunlight and water into milk and meat that are leaving the farm, and then the manure going back onto the fields. So we've moved into this realm, cheered on and guided by our farmer board of directors, and listening to our clients who have asked for more as the farming operations and this continuum of turning sunlight and water into milk and meat has become more complex. Dairy One has done this by offering a variety of services and products to its farmer owners. Some of these are very similar to what all you do. Through DHI or herd recording, provide laboratory services for the following things that are listed there. Integrating farming solutions that provides technology to farms and moving into agronomy and nutrient management. And I'll share a little bit about how we do those things and carry them out. So our DHI, or herd recording activities, this is the business that the Dairy One was founded on, currently serving about 3,000 farms with 600,000 cows in the Northeast US and the 14-state region there, and all sizes of farms. So I'm sure that you're all experiencing too. Um, Farms with 10 cows that are milking by hand in a pail, up to tens of thousands of cows in very large systems, and everything in between. And as we all recognize, herd recording is the basis for cattle and herd management on the farm, and for data sources outside of the farm to help continue to improve the industry. We provide services through our milk laboratories. There are three areas of those: for producer payment, which we call the bulk tank measurements, for DHI services, and animal health diagnostics. Under producer payment work, we do all the DFA Northeast area samples. We're closely connected with them through their data systems, but we also service 33 outside organizations by doing that. And in total, about 5,500 farms rely on Dairy One's producer payment testing for their payment through their milk check every month. It's a huge responsibility to be the ones that provide this testing. We know we have to be right, and we take that very seriously. In addition to the traditional fat, protein, somatic cells, MUNs, and the like for producer payment testing, we've also moved into some things that are beyond the basics. One of those more recent ones is the looking at fatty acid profiles from bulk tank measurements. That's another emerging measure of rumen health and a potential indicator of enteric greenhouse gas emissions. For our DHI and AHDL labs, we're consistently running about 500,000 samples a month through that laboratory. And then again, all of you are familiar with this that are in the herd recording business, that once you get that sample, it takes a lot of time and effort to get from the farm. Look to leverage for additional information and insights beyond the traditional, again, fat, protein, somatic cell, MUN, and what you may have for the herd recording. So leveraging that for pregnancy, and we do that both for milk and blood. We're moving into some udder health diagnostics using PCR technology, disease testing for yonis, and the like. We're not the only ones that are doing this around the globe. I think many of milk recording or herd recording organizations are doing the same thing, trying to leverage that one sample taken from a cow and find out what other insights we can get from it. Our forage lab began in the early 1980s as feeding cattle became more sophisticated and new data was needed that wasn't available. So Dairy One at the time, which was Northeast DHI, moved into this to be able to create that information that farmers needed. This has grown into a world leader in forage analysis. And additionally, our soil lab was formed in the late 1990s, again, as producers were seeking additional insights into their crop growing activities, and soil is the basis for all crops. Soil analysis now is moving rapidly towards measuring soil health and the quest to measure soil improvements in those areas, and also in the area of carbon sequestration, and be able to measure those things as farms move into carbon markets and using the soil to do that. One of the parts of back on our forage analysis laboratory is a affiliated network of laboratories that we have around the globe. This was established in 2008, and much of the growth of the affiliate system has been spurred by the adoption of the CNCPS nutritional model that many of you may be using on your farms or in your businesses. Dairy One is able to provide the constituents to that model in a very thrifty manner. And we have two of our affiliate members, Feed Central and Balco in Australia. We're very proud to have them be part of our affiliate system. I presume that some of you would be doing business with these organizations. I'm guessing that technology in Australia for farmers and Australian farmers may face many of the same challenges that farmers in the U.S. face. that there aren't very good outlets for services that are tailored to farmers. You may find outlets that are good with computers but have no idea what goes on a farm, how cattle are managed, how farmsteads are managed, or the like. So we started in the herd management software business way back in the early '90s when PCs were first being introduced to farms, and herd management software was being introduced to farms also. Quickly, farmers were asking us to get into hardware and support for that because they couldn't find good vendors for those things that they could rely upon. And so we've built integrated farming solutions over that time frame, and they have become the on-farm integration specialists for many farms across the U.S. So provide software for herd management and herd technology, about 1,400 users here in the U.S. Do a lot in the area of farm IT for hardware installations and networks on farms, specifically for networks, camera systems, cell computers, install systems like NCR and partner with others like that in order to install technology and make it work on the farm. So we again have become the on-farm integration specialists for many of our clients across the U.S. As far as our camera and network systems go, this is a typical view of a camera placement across many of the farms. We have many anecdotes of saved calves, saved cows, solved crimes, protocol drift or protocol training in the parlor, and much, much more. Most of the systems are phone enabled, and farms have helped us learn how they use this camera systems to improve efficiency. Most people think of systems within the barn and with animals. One of our early clients used the camera systems to improve their efficiency of checking systems around quite a large farm. They previously had spent their time daily driving to a number of water pumping stations around the farm to make sure that they were all working. So we installed camera systems at each of the pumping stations. So the person that was responsible for doing that got up every day, looked at his phone, looked at the cameras on the pumping stations, and went to work. And if one was not working, went to the pumping station and fixed it rather than going to every pumping station every day. So we were able to help to improve that. So the most popular placements for cameras were the things that you would think about: calving pens, parlor breezeways, parlor pits, driveways, fuel tanks, milk rooms, the back of crowd gates, and many, many more. One of our directors on our Dairy One board unfortunately had a very serious crime committed on their farmstead, and there was footage on one of their outdoor cameras that was able to help solve the crime and bring the people to justice that committed the crime. And one of our more recent endeavors was to move further into the area of agronomy and nutrient management. We purchased a consulting company called Agricultural Consulting Services a number of years ago. As our farmer leaders said that we need more help in this area. Much of the farms and many of the farms in the U.S. are now regulated, and they have to have a plan that's created by a certified planner. It's called a CAFO plan, or Confined Animal Feeding Operation, Concentrated Animal Feeding Operation. They're compelled to have those plans in place, and they also came to us with saying this thing of growing crops is becoming much more complex than we can handle with our current systems. They were accustomed to using herd management software systems daily with their cattle to help manage those, but there was nothing to suit their needs for the growing complexity of crop growing. So one analogy or example that I use is that with the advent of Roundup Ready crops here in North America, it was disastrous to pull into a non-Roundup Ready field of crops, corn or soybeans, with a sprayer full of Roundup and spray on that field and not know what you're doing. And I liken that similar to having a pregnant cow on the loot list that can be disastrous. So not having the right cows on the right work list on the right day is the same as not having the right fields on the right spray list for the right day. And so was becoming more and more complex, and farmers were asking for more help in this area. One of the other things that we've experienced is with the advent of more technology on farms, the technology and the data from that technology, from planters, from harvesters, and more, is getting stranded on those harvesters or tractors or planters, and farmers are not able to use that to their best ability, and they're not getting insights from that. So we've been endeavoring to create a platform specifically for dairy farmers to use that incorporates all their crop growing, their crop fertility, their regulatory activities, and manure spreading all into one platform, so they can keep all the records and manage all their crop activities in one place, similar to how we would use a herd management platform to keep records and manage all of our cattle. So that's a newer endeavor for us, and we're on the cusp of launching that. And also this whole notion of participating in carbon markets and sequestering carbon. We have an attitude that we want to be able to help farmers take advantage of those things, but not by using a number of different platforms. So we're designing our platform so that it will record things that need to be used in those off-farm markets, but so farmers won't have to go out and to answer a second questionnaire or survey or do something special on their farm other than take advantage of the carbon markets or other off-farm markets, and and be able to be ready and able to help them with those market activities. So that brings me back to where I started with this graphic of the holistic view of milk production and the cycle, and measuring as many things as we can in that activity. And hopefully I give you some insights to where Dairy One came from and where where it is currently and where it's heading into the future. And it plans to dive deeper into all of these areas for the benefit of its member as farming becomes more complex and more diverse, and more things are put upon farmers as far as management insights, leading to new insights to help manage and prosper. So thank you for your time to be with you today. I hope you gained some insights into Dairy One and its evolution, and perhaps some things that you may want to bring back to your organization in the future. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Question slider would be great, and or microphone. I have one question for you, Jamie. You've shown a really pretty strong line of progression. That did the progression within the organisation be ahead of what the farm needs were and the increased complexity of farms, or was it reacting to those changes at the farm? So was it proactive or reactive?
It was much of both. It was much reactive to our farmer leaders and our customers saying, hey, we need something. But at the same time, again, as many of you experience, when you're out on a variety of farms with a lot of different systems, you can start to put some things together and say, oh, I see where this is going, and try to be ahead of it. I'd like to say that we were ahead of it much of the time, but much of the time we're also reacting. But there are times also to say, boy, we're seeing something out here, that there's a nugget out here and we should be chasing after that. And so we moved into some areas that like that also. So it was really some of both.
Okay, thank you. Matt Schaefer has a question.
Good evening, Jamie. Thanks for a good talk, and it's great to hear the history of where you've come from and how you've traveled. I actually just wanted to ask more of a people-related question, and in your transition from, let's say, traditional DHI to offering all the other services you offer, how did you change the culture within the business, and how did you bring your people along on that journey? Because that's quite a change to move into crops and soils and technology. So just curious if you had any comments on it.
Um, well, I think well, I was fortunate and blessed to have great people around me all the time. We were fortunate and blessed to have farmer leaders that were looking to the future. So I think much of the culture was there that we were always pushed to look for the next thing that's going to bring value to our farmer constituents. And we're really fortunate to have a group of employees that just did a really nice job of taking care of people. And so it built a reputation built on our employees, not built on me, of doing a good job. And so they would say, hey, would you consider doing these things? And then feedback would come to us. Then we said, sure, we'll give that a try, and move it. So we had lots of things that didn't work out. We've had lots of things that have worked out. And so I think it's a combination of all those things of good farmer leaders, good attention to what's happening in the industry, and also a culture of let's consider what things are next, and we need to continue to progress.
Thank you. A question from Michelle Axford. One, thanks for the presentation. Could you please explain how you validate a new bit of info that you deliver to farmers? How do you know that it works?
Well, there's always a lot of trial and error that I'm sure all of you are familiar with. And so I think it's back to somewhat the same answer as being with farmers and amongst them and understanding what they're doing, but also having and listening to what they're dealing with. And so gaining some insights there and then coming back and saying, hey, would this be valuable to you? Other times farmers come to us and say, hey, can you give this to me? Can you put information in these terms and ask for a specific product? So we get it in both ways. So it's looking for having our ears open, looking for keys, and being asked specifically from people.
Thank you. Any further questions, people, at this stage? It looks like we've done. So, Jamie, I'd just like to, on behalf of the crowd in the room, is to thank you for your presentation, sharing the journey in reality of the dairymen in your region in America and the journey of the business around that. So great way to start day 2 of our conference. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, and I hope the rest of your conference goes great.